If you couldn't tell already, I love model trains. Ever since my early teen lurking days in the Thomas fandom before I made all my social media accounts, I was always fascinated by model trains. Since making my YouTube channel and all my other social media accounts and joining the fandom at large, I have amassed quite the collection of them. Most of these models in my collection are my headcanon interpretations of Thomas characters. Well, there are also a few that are outside of that, and many more on the way as well. In this video, you'll see a lot of returnee models, and also some new ones too. And all of these new ones that you see in this video will be getting their own standalone spotlight videos in the future. There is a lot to go through, so I'll try to be brief with each description of them. And I'll try to go in numerical order for much as I can before it gets kind of murky. So we'll start with the first 11 engines in Northwestern numerical order. Let's begin. A model train collection wouldn't really be complete without at least one representation of Thomas Tank Engine. This model returning for his third year on the channel. Since the last collection video, he has been completely redone. New body shell and all as well. Same chassis though. For me, this body shell and model as a whole is a much better one than the old one. Nothing wrong with the old one, of course. I just simply prefer the proportions of this one. It's a little more squat and compact, like how I mentioned Thomas. This might be my favorite model of them all. I know I really like it. Also because, it's Thomas, Can't go wrong with him. Edward is a model I am also somewhat happy with. He was made from a tender-driven 2P by a Hornby, and fitted with the new body shell. This shell was designed by Pixel Crafters, really good 3D modeler. Although since the last collection video, he took a pretty nasty fall while my house being renovated, and he is now a non-runner. He is tender-driven, so it shouldn't be too hard to fix him, but I do not have the skills to fix him at the moment though. But when I do get around to finally doing that after all this time, I would like to do some tweaks to his model as well. Maybe go over the lining again to make it less pinkish. This was originally done with a paint pen that was supposedly red, but it was somewhat pinkish. But regardless, still love this model. Can't go wrong with Edward. Only I can get him fixed. This here Henry model is one of my earliest redos I've done. I believe he said in his original condition, seen in my very first train video, for only like 6 months or so before I redid his paintwork. This model depicts his Mark III look, using the Bachmann Standard 5 as a base. In my AU, this Mark III look came around when British Railways standardized him in the 50s. Mark I and II do exist as well, and I would love to make them in model form as well, and also with different liveries to be fun as well. Like Mark I would be in a pre-grooving Sodor livery, and Mark II would be in a glow-in-the-dark Northwestern green. Why don't you see how that will work? Those would require designing body shells for better synergy with the Mark III, so it might be a while before I make those. Overall, I like his model too. Gordon is another early edition. I believe he was the second model I got. He is in need of some touch-up work, but I'm still pretty happy with this one. He was made using an older style Hornby Flying Scotsman that is tender-driven. If I were to change anything design-wise with this model, I would probably try to fit him with an A3 smoke box with the superheaters and double chimney. In my AU, Gordon wasn't rebuilt at crew nor into an A3, but was instead gradually modified by the Northwestern Railway over time, and was given a select few mods from the A3 class. A new smoke box door will be quite the undertaking, but one I feel will be kind of worth in the end. Let me know what y'all think. Kind of still 50-50 on that one, but still that's model too. God love Gordon. James is a model that had quite the journey to get to where he is now. He was very close to being just a simple Bachmann repaint of his TVS model, but I wasn't really too happy how it was turning out, and so I pivoted to the N class, also by Bachmann. I feel that this is a way better model than the TVS design. This is also one of my favorite models as well. I just love how smooth the paint design came out. Love this one. Percy was the first model I ever made. Well, the original Percy model. As he was in the original collection video and then escaped out a couple of years before I made this new one. His original was just a repaint of the Hornby Pocket Rocket, particularly the Saddle Tank variant. but then I since cannibalized her parts, and it almost became 2 different models. Then I eventually just cannibalized the rest of her parts. It no longer exists. Fast forward a few years, and I eventually used a shell by Pixel Crafters plucked onto a Hornby Pug chassis. The smokebox door is of my own design and 3D printed as well. So yeah, also happy with this one. Percy the Small Boy. Toby is one of my newer models that I've made. He was made with Rapido's glorious J70 model. I got this one in the pack that comes with 2 coaches, which I set to be painted up for Interurban engines when I eventually film that. Toby is the model I am also very happy with. The model runs like an absolute dream. Rapido never misses with their models, I swear. So much peak in their line. Overall, one of my also favorites. Duck is very simply a Bachmann 5700 repaint. I used the variants with the standard windows as opposed to the one with the round windows, just to make it a little more different design-wise. And he's wearing his mintier shade of green as seen in the Railway series. In my AU, this livery is the official Great Western livery as opposed to the darker green in real life. So all Westerners in this AU would wear this minty green. And also what I've painted onto my other Western models too, which you'll see later in the video. Really happy with the color on this one. I love Duck. Donald and Douglas are repaints of their respective Bachmann TV series models. They are also the newest debut models as of recording this. I wanted the twins to wear the same livery as each other from day one of modeling, but at the same time I also wanted them to be distinct from each other design-wise, which is reflected in some small changes like a Giesel ejector funnel for Donald, and also a gold dome for Douglas, and etc, etc. The smokebox doors on both of them are designed and printed myself, and they took quite a while to make, as I wanted to showcase them at the same time. Poor Donald had to wait almost a full year before he even started Douglas. With the completion, I now have all 11 of the main Northwestern engines in model form. Speaking of which, Oliver is a repaint of the older Hornby 1400 model. It's also a pretty simple model, admittedly, one I'm proud of regardless. Can't go wrong with an auto tank. Arthur is the Northwestern's number 12 in my AU. His model was made using the Bachmann model, which is a simple repaint into LMS colors. Not the easiest livery I've had to do. It was pretty tedious with the two-tone look, but it was definitely worth it all in the end, just how good it looks. Can't go wrong with LMS maroon. Just can't. Stanley is quite the unique model. He was made using a Hornby J52, except I removed the saddle tank and replaced it with a custom design print, more akin to his IRL counterparts. While I am pretty happy with the outline of this model, at some point I would like to redo the paintwork on him. Reason being that the white acrylic is just awful to work with, brush-wise. It is very gloppy and doesn't apply well at all, and you can still see some of the brush marks if you look closely at it. And also stains pretty badly too if you handle it wrong. Despite this though, I'm still somewhat happy with Stanley. I just like the overall outline of this model too. I always like Stanley, I don't know why. Barry is just a repaint of the Bachmann 2MT tender engine model. Same painting process as Arthur was applied to here, and it looks killer if I say so myself. Again, you just can't go wrong with LMS maroon. Murdoch is the largest British model I own currently. He is a repaint of the Hornby 9F, this particular model being tender driven, and he is up there with some of my favorites of the bunch. I've always found Murdoch to be an interesting character. Really wish they did more with him in the TV series. Molly, believe it or not, is actually one of my favorites from childhood, so I knew from day one of modeling I had to make her for the collection at some point. She is just a simple repaint of the Hornby D16, and she recently had some paint updates as well. I gave her white wall tires and a few other details here and there too. Sadly, while initially painting her, I accidentally damaged one of the connection wires for the tender pickups, and now she no longer runs. I would like to get her fixed one day, albeit that fix might just be flat out replacing the chassis outright, but who knows. Not sure why, I just can't help but love this character. Really wish they did more with her in the series. Should have been really good in CGI. Belle is probably the most different from her TVS counterparts out of all the characters I've made so far. In my AU, she's of a different basis, same wheel configuration, but is BR number 42069, and she wound up being one of the bank conventions of Gordon's Hill. She is a 4P model painted into Northwestern Banking Indigo. This model I'm also happy with. Surprisingly heavy and sturdy too. And also love the indigo color. Very good. Porter, if you couldn't tell by now, is the namesake of my brand and AU. He was also redone fairly recently as well. He was made using an AHM 060 switcher. I painted him in this sand green color and designed his buffer beams myself. And this model I'm also very happy with as well, especially with the new buffer beam. This is easily my top 3 favorites of the model collection. Sigrid is one of my earliest OCs that I've made. Her model was made using a Hornby L1. I painted her in a chocolate brown color to match Toby and fitted her with cowcatchers. The cowcatchers have started to kind of annoy me a little bit in terms of how clunky they look, so I do plan to replace these with more realistic looking ones, and also improve the coupling design as well. Her model is also one of my favorites of the bunch. Just love big tank engines. Salty is a repaint of the Helgen 07. This model is actually really good. He is just simply repainted red and then weathered to hell and back. Weathering was really fun in this. Gotta love Salty. Daisy is a model that is probably the most in need of an overhaul, at least from a cosmetic standpoint. Well, the paint isn't atrocious or anything, it's just solid green. But another issue I found is that the motor on this thing is absolutely terrible. This is the Hornby Railroad Bubble Car, particularly the Coca-Cola variant. But the motor is complete shit. So hopefully I'll try to replace that or at least improve it. And also repaint the interior at some point too. Still though, I love Daisy. Her character is so much fun. Pip and Emma are characters I've seen very few models of in the fandom. These two are just Hornby's Inner City 125 slightly repainted. I tested them after buying them and they don't run. So I'll probably have to fix that eventually too. Still love how they turned out. Love these characters. Kenji is the first Japanese model of the collection. He is a repaint of an HO scale Shinkansen 0 Series bullet train. I am not sure of the brand, I just know this model is pretty old. Just a simple spray with some chrome spray paint and some other details here and there, and bam! Kenji. Kinda wish there were more Kenji models in the fandom. Kenji's pretty cool, I like him. Caitlin is the first streamlined steam engine of the collection. The streamlining is simply card paper cut to size, and the body is just a regular HO scale Pacific model. I forget the brand, I think it's IHC, but they're surprisingly common. Eventually, I plan to redo this with an actual streamlined variant of this model, as I found out those exist to lay into the model process. But for now, I'm pretty happy with it. Really happy with the color in particular. Class 40, or known as Rainier in my AU, is just a repaint of the Hornby Class 40 Diesel. He is shown here wearing Northwestern green, as he does become a Northwesterner in the 80s, in my AU. Not much else to say here, really. Class 40. Flora was surprisingly easy to make. I found this body shell on Shapeways just before the website shit the bed and shut down. They might be up again, I just haven't looked into it that much. But she is currently a free-rolling model, as the motor bogie that this shell was designed for is outrageously expensive. So for now, she just sits on the bogie that once belonged to Goober Sandy, which has been cannibalized, RIP. Hopefully the price for the actual motor bogie will go down at some point in the future, at least by the time I start filming into urban engines, which she's also a part of, but who knows. Just wish they did more Flora in the TV series. Busy Bee James is a crazy model. I don't think anyone's ever made a realistic or railway series Bee James before. I don't know why I always liked the bee colors on it. Probably because the model came around the same time as the Minecraft Bee update. And the whole bee craze just collided for me, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I just really like the bee color. It's nice. Overall, a pretty hilarious model, I guess. Quesala is the largest model I currently own. She was made from a Mantua logging engine. These are surprisingly common to find. They have loads of variants out there. I made her during my house's renovation in early to mid 2024, and turned out surprisingly good despite the limited options I had for modeling. Love this model. Squid Warden, or Squidward Gordon, whatever you want to call him, is easily the most cursed model I have made, period. I made this purely just because I could. This model is based off of that one Thomas Mini's toy, and it still feels weird looking at it every day on my desk, on my shelf. Quite the timeline we live in. I'm just glad the fandom likes it from what I've heard. But yeah, Squid Warden. The goobers are just... I mean, look at these. You can just imagine what I'm about to say. All of these were made using their respective all-in-go push-along toys, and they were painted, modified, and slapped onto whatever chassis I could find. And yes, Goober Edward, seen in this picture, is getting his own video at some point this year as well. Just look out for that. I haven't forgotten about him, don't worry. 60th anniversary Henry, or as I call him, half and half Henry, is on the more tame side in terms of wacky, crazy models. There's just a simple background repaint to match the wooden railway toy. Pretty simple. Little Owl is still the same as his last redo. Only change I made since then was the megaphone, which is now yellow. Might replace it with the red one eventually, but not much to say. He's just chilling in my drawers right now. Might refurbish him, but who knows. 2406 is a special model for me, as this was the first model I ever bought in person while in the UK back in 2022. I love this model, and I'll forever treasure this one. And I 100% plan on buying more models the next time I eventually visit the UK. Love the RODs, 280s. This Bachmann Spectrum switcher was bought when I was redoing Porter. I figured I would try to use this model to just repaint the model outright. But I realized it was way too small to do Porter, unless I was going for a CGI scale accurate Porter, which definitely not. Thought I might be able to use this to power Flora's body, but it was too big. So I might use this for a Strasbourg Thomas or something. I've seen people use this chassis before for that. But for now, he just sits in one of the organizer drawers. So yeah. Red Snapper was a kit bash I made years ago. He is a little stiff free-rolling model, and he's basically the Herobrine type of character, if you can even call him that. Some might catch him in the background whenever he's not in the void. So yeah, exists on a technicality. Archibald is the ghost engine of my AU. He was made from an old 280 model, which I removed the front bogey from. All white and red for the hostile ghost look, like a lionfish. Pretty cool. Jackie was made from Rapido's 1500 model. The reason why I heard the background in this picture is a little different is that I almost forgot to take her picture, and I realized that right when I put most of the models back into the little organization, and I couldn't be bothered taking it all out again. So, you get the top of my dresser, I guess. But yeah, Rapido does not miss. Their 1500s are glorious models. Love them. And love this model too. Bruno, Henrietta, and the missing coach are just repaints or just little paint mods to the models. Simple yet effective. All of my non-rail models will be covered in their own big video, sans the Transformers characters. So Birdie, Terrence, Bulstrode, etc. will all be covered in one big video in the future. And all the Transformers characters, once I make more of them, they'll get their own video as well. All these models varying with how I made their models. Okay, I think that's all of them. I lose track a lot. That was a lot to go through. I also have a lot of rolling stock in other models. I just stuffed in my organizers right now, but Didn't really think it was worthy to take those out, as I have very little space on my desk. Despite this, I still have more models in the works, including Rosie, Emily, Harold, and Trevor. Once I have a place of my own to live in, I will 100% be making my own layout and be expanding the collection a lot more, including moving forward with my larger model plans. Stay tuned for those in the future. And with that, we have reached the end of the collection video. I would like to thank you all for the support over the years on this crazy modeling journey. I never thought I would end up with this big of a collection so soon into YouTube. It is just crazy. Thank you all so much for watching, and I shall see you all same time next week.